Right. We are on page Reish Samech Vav, and in the English on page 200 and 301.
I think just three. I think we're
300.
I think I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I missed.
Unity.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Hatish, which is the dish, Leil Shabbos, is the efo, right? Iva efo es hatzir hamerkazi sivo nesuva avirat Shabbat alvor Yehudim Rabim mikol gavane hatzibor. The tish was set up as a way for its central time in which people would gather on Shabbos for many Jews and many different backgrounds. Achein lo rabim yodim al odos hareka tfilaso shel shir shavui kavua zeh reka minyan haroui litachzu kishlatmo asher yesh bo kedei laha'ir pen nosaf ishioto shel harav. It was also an opportunity to see, I guess, the personality of the Rav emerge in that time. Yeah, and a time for him to bring out an additional component of his message. Sometimes Yerushalmis come to stay, spend Shabbos in Ofakim or to move there. They wanted to make an Oneg Shabbos, Chol Shabbos every Friday night. At Kvutzasam Bikshu Halol Nahel at Oneg Shabbos Bisfat Yiddish. They wanted to do it in Yiddish. Now, many of the people who lived in Ofakim could not understand Yiddish. He was not happy about it. Osam Yamim, I like these stories. I'm going to deal with different personalities within the community saying, like, this is how we do it. People have come to the community. This is like interesting when they've come and say, well, I plan on I have a teenager. I plan on running things unless I find it matim for my child in such and such institution. I'm going to run myself. Then they go and they do their own thing, and you say to them, "Well, this sounds great. Why don't you bring it into one of the shuls? Bring it into one of the." And what becomes clear is that part of what they want to do is they want to do their own thing. And so obviously this is interesting.
They want to do
is do their own thing, meaning it's not just about servicing their son or servicing their daughter. And you have to work around that, to work around the sort of the egos and the interest in people doing their own set of projects. Which is a good thing, that you have to always try to figure that out. So so he was not, I guess, thrilled about this necessarily. And Manta Kihila Arba'im Mishpachot Bilbad. Sorry, in those days there were 40 families. This was a way that it can create a division among the various components. And that ultimately it could reduce the Torah life, I guess, in the Kila. You're not going to withhold from them. For them, they want to do something nice, right? This is the struggle we all have. So you're now grow this group, you grow this kihila within a kihila, this shiur, this chapura, this program, this minyan, right? How do you do it? Since in the end of the day their intent was good, their goal was to elevate Torah, God-fearing nature. He found a way to resolve it. He opened up the shul, and there they would have gathering miyad. Whose man can move on, let's say, at Dvarav. He was going to, I guess, to speak. Also Shabbos, Yiddish. He started to speak in Yiddish. Over time, he would convert slowly to the language, the Hebrew language. Eventually, it was all in Hebrew. Uvda sher hafka usal naflat haklal. The efshara lechol hamaonein lavo litol bachil. And then everybody could be part of it. So he kind of transitioned them into Hebrew from Yiddish. Now, what's interesting is I was at a shul, more like sort of a Dati Leumi community, and the rabbi knows he has a lot of Americans in the community. And so he'll speak and then he'll translate a lot into English. But I asked him about the strategy, and he was saying that over time, he's just going to go over to Hebrew. You have to understand that generations stay there for a while, and then they become Hebrew speaking. The children grow speaking Hebrew, but he understands you have to make people feel comfortable. You have to try your best. This is why I speak a little bit in Spanish, a little bit in Hebrew. My Shlab Suyam. I don't speak a word of Spanish. Bishlab Suyam. But kasher hitkansut kvar haisa rabas mishtatfim. Kasher shadavar mafrir l'shinat hashchenim bilel Shabbos. He was worried that what? That it would take away from people's the neighbors menucha Shabbos. Et whose damat azu nitzel mechdei lekadem etachnisil achlos hashurot v'tzir b'maroganim ki yatiku et makom hitnasu lebeit knesset samuch. Lachar vush. So I guess they moved it away from to a shul nearby, or
Yeah, me too.
ulachar shehuska haskam hamichalet havachar shem ora hamoni onatu chelek chashavu rabim mitoshayam. What happened? The shear ended up becoming a
Mass event.
yeah.
A mass event attended by many residents of fucking.
Okay, fine. Now, Yitzhak Zman Bilal Shabbos, the Tish Shalel Shabbos, Karov Real Ribam for Yidden Rabim, very close to many Jews. The Shabbos Suyam Hichlit Rabbeinu Lapsiko. Hayazek Asher Neelatz Laedar Bithol Hukim Shavos Rabos. I guess he didn't do it. He discontinued the tishes because he was traveling around the world. And if you're traveling, you go away every third week, you lose continuity. When it comes to Torah, you realize that when he wasn't there, it was Bittul Torah. Therefore, lo yamazul laskin. So he felt that he was taking away from Torah, and what did he do? He would have the shul delivered by local rabbis, but that wasn't, I guess that wasn't enough. So, all right, so he would rotate with them. I guess that was the Levicha Chechlit Leshnot et Mitkavan Mitzvah Zman. B'Fakim B'Leil Shabbos Makom LaHamshich LaHachzik B'Shiro Kavua Echlit Kayim Shirim B'Likud V'Skaz Merkazim Yad Leil Shabbos Shirim Asher Yimsru Al Yidei Rabbanim Shonim. You'd hire other rabbis, guests, other rabbis would go and cycle in. So their queue would be set. Between the consideration, so the point is that he wanted people to continue teaching Torah, can move on. And now Rabbi Pincus was also part of that rotation. Those and Shabbosos, Bahan, Shabbos Beso, Kasher Moshe Shir, Below Shabbos, Madiim, Tochno, Tzivar, Shtatim, Tilu Shir, Lamdeni ben Noi le Talpiot, Panui le Talpiot, Heavier Open Shehikim, Gamlatum Vichamim, Gamto Shovakim, and it was built in such a way that it was something that was enjoyable for people who were scholars and people who were regular residents and not as advanced. A good shir is one that can be understood on every level. Kach, Hachel, Perek, Fadash, Toldos, Leilos, Shabbos, Shalfakim. That's how you would begin a new. That was the new path forward. Fakim, Leilot, Shabbos, those are Minutzalim, Leim, Gedushim, Mitocham, Rufani. That that learning, Friday nights were therefore remained here full of spiritual content. And then on Shabbos itself was filled with limud. Gama Yom Shabbos, I'm a Malay, Bitocham Ruchni al Yidei. Mesiras Yurim, Sichos would have filled this with conversation with Sichos Yurim, Kasher Echam Imne Agila, Erech Kiddush Beikvot Simcha, Simcha, Hayahu Rosh Medabrim, when there was a Simcha, right? So he would be the Rosh Medabrim. It's Palim Rabim, Mitzapim Shkika Ledivrei Harav Regel HaSimcha. So if there was a Simcha, I guess he would show up and be the guest speaker. This happens in all yeshuvim in Israel. I don't know if you've been spent Shabbosos in various communities. So what happens is that there is a Rav that usually is involved with each shul, but the Rav of the whole yeshuv will come in for Simcha, and he'll come in give the Divrei Bracha. Some shuls don't even have a rabbi that resides there, but the Rav of the Roshi of the yeshuv will come to a Simcha. My nephew's, my brother-in-law is in charge of the Karabach in Mitzpeh Yericho, and it's like a bomb shelter. It's the perfect place. It's the Karabach, the safest place in town. That was converted into a mini. It's really great acoustics, by the way. You cannot beat the acoustics in bomb shelter. And the rabbi of the yeshuv came in to give Divrei Bracha, the bar mitzvah, and then he says in Hebrew, he said, he goes, next time you have Simcha, come to the main shul.
How big is this?
Big enough for like 45 or so 50 people. Yeah, it's a bit larger. It's a communal bomb shelter. Some of the homes that were built there were before the requirement to have a private bomb shelter, a memad in your house. Now, any new construction has to be a memad. The older ones didn't have, or they retrofitted them.
If they're gonna keep Muhammad in the house, like they did, because someone was able to break through.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, there were homes that were destroyed that I saw where the only thing that survived, the RPGs, was the bomb shelter. And you wonder why the people got killed. They obviously stepped out and they not.
Or the smoke. They burned the house, when they were burning houses.
Yeah, if built properly, it shouldn't.
It shouldn't
You should have a filter. It should be right. It shouldn't be filled properly. The smoke may be coming from the outside, but then there's you have those. Some of the windows have these filtration systems on them. I don't know. I don't know how they're constructed. Anyway, obviously failed on many levels. So, so he would give the drasha, the meshach, varucha, masa, shir, klali. He would also give a general shir, fakim yeshiva, before mincha on Shabbos. The shir atzma ishtadfu b'nei yeshiva ba'abrach hakolo. Starf aleim rabbi nekila sher bo'u lachavot et haritcha doraisa shaisa be'ez shir. That's it's a expression, ritcha doraisa, like the Torah environment, Torah feeling. Shabbos Rabbos, Af Masar Sichas Moser Vishiva La'achar Sudas. Please, you would also give over a Moser Shmuz after Shalshus. Bisman Rabbi the Rabbin. Shalshus is called Rabbi the Rabbin in Aramaic. It's like the highest point of Shabbos. Sicha Sher Rabbin Mibnei Yeshiva. Tachshuba Esad Shkafa and Chom Bochaim. That's where they would give over more of the Moser and then Hashkava Zachaim sorts of Torahs. Okay, next section is called Zehirim L'Shomro, which is the expression, the piyut, one of our songs that we sing, Zehirim L'Shomro, those who are careful to observe the Shabbos. Harav Zatzal, the rabbi of blessed memory, Tiageh, Rabot Harim Hatzuim B'Sara Shel Hilchot Shabbos HaChamros, Toch Shu Madgish Mavir L'Vnei Bezo, Talmidov, Yibli Limud Mamek Ritzini, Kashi Lizaher Mibnei Chil Shabbos Karoi. He would take like one little thread, one little halacha, one hair, and turn it to mountains. Develop depth from one topic. So let's say in Hilchot Shabbos, he would engage in intense analysis when he was younger. He was studying Masechah Shabbos, teaching Masechah Shabbos in depth. That he was able to, because he spent a great deal of time studying that Masechta and that part, that he was able to he claims he was able to gain a deeper understanding of Halachos, because he spent a lot of his time when he was young on these topics. I certainly know the things that I emphasized in my earlier learning years. They're something that I treasure and know more on a greater level of depth. We also have people who have been exposed to different svarim by force, and they have mastered those. So, like, there's stories of people who locked away in prison with one masechta. Rabin every year makes a siyum on Masechtas Brachos because on the yurt side of his father, because his father, I think, had access at one point to only Masechtas Brachos. It's in Russia. I don't remember where it was. See, it's every year on the earth they make Siyum there. They say, I don't know if it's true, Maseches Sanhedrin. So there was no good, like there weren't many Rishonim that did this type of work on Maseches Sanhedrin till one of the Achronim, uh, uh, Rav Reuven Margolios, wrote a book called Margolios Hayam, and the story is that he somehow only had access to a Sanhedrin during the war, so he dedicated himself to that Masechta. So when you have a unique relationship with particular study, could master that. You ever read Malcolm Gladwell's? I don't know if it's which one is which one. I think it's in Outliers, where he talks about was it 10,000 hours that you have to master something. Spend 10,000 hours or something, you become a master of that craft. And he talks about that the people who had the most practice because of their age, month they were born, they gravitated to the top of the NHL in Canada. So if you start playing hockey at like, I don't know, age 3, so who's going to be the best? Developmentally, January, February, and March, because that was the cutoff of the class. So they were the oldest. So if you look at the NHL, especially the Canadians who are in the NHL, it's a huge majority are from January, February, March. Right. Just the cutoff. So he started advocating for people to hold their kids back. And people went crazy holding their kids back, realizing to be the oldest in your class, because developmentally earlier on, you're going to, and he recently wrote that he said he may have created a monster because people are never holding their kids back 2 years. He always want to get an advantage. Anyway, the point is that if you have more practice at hockey, because you were playing at early age, you're going to come better. You get the more reps, and he talks about the Beatles. So the Beatles played thousands and thousands of hours just in the bars for years in Liverpool, right? For years until they've mastered every genre of music together, and the way they work together, also like reading each other's minds. So it's not that they were the most musically talented, which they may have been, but it's that they had the most practice together.
Interesting.
You could have gifted people who don't feel they don't have to practice, and they kind of get up there and they hit or miss in the shows. Happens. You have gifted people I see in my field, but they don't put in the work in advance, and it shows. Sometimes they walk in there, and they're off the cuff.
Yeah, there's a school too, like kids who do well, who are really smart, so they don't think they have to work, and then they get to older grades and they're failing because they don't know how to study. Or
yeah. I have a relative who was telling me she is the smartest in her class, and therefore she doesn't have to work. And I said, well, that's going to change.
No, what's going to happen? Well, hopefully it'll change, or she'll fail. I mean, because they just
right
don't want to do the work because they're not used to doing it.
Yeah, and ultimately in life, you're not. Yes, there are things you get rewarded if you're gifted or wealthy, and all that's true. You can't take away that advantage, but ultimately, people who don't put in work are not appreciated. You don't get them around. Yeah.
I think that there's an old adage, Woody Allen said this, 80% of success is just showing up. And I think that is so true in every endeavor. If you're not there and you're not putting in the work, no matter how talented you are.
I'm gonna come on Shabbos in my pajamas. See what happens. I'm gonna show up to shul and Shabbos in my pajamas. See what happens. Because I'm here. But it's true.
But I think it's really true. You see it like with the kids.
More than showing up. You have to have kavanah, you have to have intention.
But showing up means that. Exactly.
So if you're showing up, means
just physically, you're showing up.
Okay, then I agree.
So he says, he used to say to the Bachram, if you wanted to have a zechus, special chush miuchad in Hilchos Shabbos, he would say, "Kedai lechem lilmod kama pamim b'sechas Shabbos v'tzkuros b'chorchem." Bo halev v'amoach adayin chusim l'ravocha, tuchim l'ravocha when you're young, and you could really put in the time. Du lachem ki limud shekazeh kinyan l'chol chayim u'mapish. It is an acquisition for all of life. I keep telling this to my son. When he struggles with a hard day in learning, I said, no matter what, each of those days that are very difficult, but right now you're sort of breaking all your, you're ripping the muscles right now in learning, and you're developing not only a skill but things that will be cumulative throughout lifetime. And you'll see. You're not going to realize it, or you're going to look back after months or years and see what you achieved. Nitain v'chush miuchad le'chol Shabbos, tzir v'kra shamayim hanedira asher b'ima b'libo. He had a special feeling, a chush for Shabbos, and with a special God-fearing nature that was wondrous. He caused l'diktuk halacha asher lo nod g'moso etzel Rabbi Migdol. He had a sort of a care for an in-depth care for halacha, like that was not paralleled and known to by other people. Mas Rabbi Mischarim all those also did halacha lo tachlim hayiriya. There are so many stories about his observance of detailed observance of halacha. Misgeret zu navi mispar dugmaot bevodadot sher yesh behen kidei lumod ala klal kulo sheratzuf yirat shamayim torah v'zirut mufleget b'shmiras shel Shabbos. So we're going to bring several examples that express this unique dedication to detail of Hilchos Shabbos. Okay, Kena Dugma. Misaper Echem Shechina, one of his neighbors said, "Al Osa Shabbos Agadol. Shabbos Agadol. Bo Nakesh Al Delet Beso Beno Sherav Pinchas." He knocked on the door of Rav Pinchas. Umasar Kira Mavakesh Shikane Selal Bektim. The Rav said, "Come in." Also Shachain Mier Lagesh Del Beis Rav. Begish Yashar Leinian Ma Mispar ha'na'alayim shelcha. What is your shoe size? Shal Rav v'avrech heshiv hu noel na'alayim b'mida arba'im v'sheish. This is more European size, right? 46. Toch she mekolo lo ne'lemet nima taplia al shela muzar. So while his voice was not forgotten, I guess he asked about why is the Rav asking me? I take your shoe off from him. Oh, so you saw he didn't know the measurement things. He didn't know his shoe size? Is that the point?
No, he just says, without missing a beat, he says, "Can I try them on?"
Can I try it? Okay. So b'simcha, heishu avrech, which taram etzliach lahavin, ma rabba shel kila nala. So he wanted to
You'll see.
He'll explain it.
right.
That I had to read.
Yeah.
It's
I was like,
interesting. I got
what?
myself.
Okay. He says, fine, go ahead. Because what did he do? He put it on, and then he said, can I so now Rav Miher Limdodet Nalaim Mishnochach Ladaski to Amotain. You saw the Midah so. Bira Haim Yesh Losa Avrech Nalaim Acheret. Does he have other shoes? Shinena Bachiyuv Bikesh Lishol Nalav Lemis Parshot. He's like, I borrow a second pair of your shoes for a couple hours. Makara, he probably hello. He said, what happened? Rav is beer pashas. Hayom Boker. This morning, Chazarti Meishiva Derech Hasada. Derech Chanti Peta Ki Igul Amatechet Shemagein Al Chur Shebo Shorchim Et Hasruchim Ba'achat Min Ali Hishtachrer Min Komo Nota Talui Ba'avir Meta It Ora Vaya Chamura Shel Tiltu. I guess one of the rings on the shoelaces, yeah. Shoe, right? Became loose and now was hanging in the air. And now I had a serious shiloh of Hilchos Shabbos. Was I carrying? Yeah, so what?
Ring that reinforces.
You know, the ring of the shoelace comes out of the socket.
Was like standing up just by a thread.
So the shoelace was standing up.
No, the shoelace was the ring was suspended now on the shoelace, but it wasn't on the shoe. It wasn't attached to the shoe. Lo nosa v'adi efel kobera ki im lahotirs na'ali na'alai b'sadeh. So he said, I had no choice, but I had to leave my shoe in the field. Lamshichet darki el beisi isharag ragli yechefot. I had to keep going with my barefoot. Right? Ulam ata nitzavta b'fnei ba'aya acheret. Shabbos Gadoli, Alayla Seta Drosha, Shabbos Gadol. I have to give the Shabbos Gadol Drosha. Lagia Yechef Levet Knesses Laseis as Drosha Si Beofen Zeh. Rather Ein Zeroi. I can't give a barefoot Drosha. Ve'al Kain Evake Shani Ki Tashil Li Et Nalecha. The Mispashot Rak B'chtei Shulchala Seta Drosha Shabbos Gadol. Just so I can give the Drosha. His beer Rav. אשר לא שכח מאוחר יוסף שוב להודות למיטבו, וטוב שהוא מציין כי נעליו דיברו יפה היום. He said your shoes spoke very well today, he said.
This is when I feel like sometimes we go too far.
Well, he's not requiring you do it. He's saying that he felt in his understanding of it that he had to that it was might be a shiloh of carrying. So he was honest about it. His own again, is he writing a safer posting that everyone with a ring comes loose, you have to run it? I'm not saying that. I think I have a rabbi who doesn't eat turkey because it's a new world for turkey, and we didn't have Masorah for turkey. Never knows the things with chicken, but it's not.
I thought there was someone who had a Masora for it, like.
Maybe.
It's in the hospital, it was very
Maybe.
old, and they went to him.
So, well, he doesn't eat turkey, but I don't know. Some people do, some people don't. If you have Masorah, then indeed it would be fine. But but he doesn't impose this on other people. He wasn't drinking cow milk not because it's not healthy, but because there was something to have to do with the rove. The majority of the cows that are in the dairy farm were trephos. They're around for a while and they get injured. They're not kept from injury, and so if they're trephos, the milk is trephos.
Oops.
If the animal's a trephos, the milk is trephos. Yeah, also is also you can't drink milk from a
So
pig.
the animal has a scratch on it.
No, if its lungs are punctured, have
It's
a mortal wound, right? Finish it.
So how can we know?
Mortal combat.
Yeah.
How do we know? We don't know. So we go. So some would go by the majority. So whatever the majority is, but he feels that there is a problem. So is he imposing this on everyone else? No. So I don't have a problem with people's chumras as long as if it is seen as a chumrah, then they have to and they don't impose it on other people because it's too much. That's fine with me. That's a sign of your Shemayim.
It's clearly it wasn't his intention to be carrying something. It just
Right, but here's another example. We talk about some people are not good about shirts come with the extra button on the back. You have to remove those for Shabbos. Some poskim say you have to. If you have an Eruv, right, you have to. But I'm saying if you think about it, if you don't have an Eruv, so what do you care?
It's sewn on. It's sewn on.
But it's not serving the purpose. It's not a style, and it's not a.
It is serving purpose. In case you lose one of the other buttons, you got.
On when are you going to sew them back on?
Not on Shabbos, but you're gonna sew it back on and then.
Right. So that doesn't serve utility on Shabbos itself. It serves utility during the week. So some people say you can't wear them on Shabbos. I think that for those communities that don't have Eruvin and Pilar Makra, we should design a shirt where the extra button becomes an integral part of the style.
Yeah.
I think it's like a cool little.
Yeah, but then when you have to take it off.
So then you have to. Okay.
Where is holes in an integral place?
Right.
where's the extra button?
It's
Usually at the bottom.
the bottom of the shirt on the inside. Yeah, it's not usually on hockey jerseys.
I got a shirt. So women.
Okay.
That's right. There's a button with a.
So here's another story. Maase main ze ira bizdamnut acheret kasher gila lafter tefillah shachar b'yeshiva kichuta mishtalshel bekaftor chulsa. So there was a string that was hanging out of one of his buttons. Bediktu kalacha ofaini chashash pen yesh bayad. Maybe he thought there's a concern of tiltul bechuta mishtalshel. Af or diun benose im mispalim, and he even brought up the subject to discuss. Because he decided him to be machmir on himself. See what I'm saying? He didn't say that it was also. He was like, lo hasis. Ela pashat et so he removed his shirt. Asa is darko beso ve'od hafrak ve'ota os es gufo. I guess he wrapped his frock around his back. I assume he didn't take his shirt off in front of everyone else.
But see, if you are there with the rabbi, because it says he discussed it with the congregants, how can
he said it's a good question, and he probably said, "Yeah, I'm going to be machmir on myself."
Yeah, because then how can I say, yeah, but I'm not going to do that? If I heard a halacha,
no, because we know our Rebbe is machmir on this, and that it's too much for people to take on in their homes. Yeah, I remember if Slabowski was doing Hilchos Shabbos and was talking about the question as to whether baby wipes constitute a problem of skita on Shabbos. Can you take a baby wipe and you squeeze it, right? So are you squeezing the liquid out or not? And in fact, Riviera, I think it is, distinguishes between the baby wipes. Certain brands are different than others. Some are drier, some are not. If it was left open, it's a different story, right? You don't want to wipe the ones that are left open. The baby will hurt them, will give them a rash. but the top of the wipes was generally less moist than the bottom of the stack as the liquid would go down, right? So so I don't remember the exact thing, but he felt that perhaps it was problematic to use those wipes that are very moist. I think the difference is if you push on it, does liquid come out or does it not come out? Is it already on the surface? If it's very moist, those are actually really good because there's enough liquid on the surface. But if you have to squeeze it to come out, that's pita. So he felt that it was problematic to use certain wipes. So his wife said to him, "Okay, you have to." He said, "We have to wash the baby in the sink." So I said, "Okay, it's your job." And he accepted. Meaning, he says, "I'm going to accept the chumrah, but it's your responsibility. You don't be machmir on someone else's
Right.
cheshbon and make their life miserable."
But then does she get an avera or whatever the word is?
He didn't skip from her like that, saying that if we insist that that's the way the halacha goes, then he has to do it. That was their agreement. If he felt, anyway, but that was an example of this type of thing. It's true that sometimes there's clear cut pshat, clear cut halacha. This is a machlokes, and there's a shita that's more machmir, that is more extreme, that is more of a das yachid. It's not really the way to impose upon other people. There's one time a year though we do impose the more stringent opinions. That's Pesach. Pesach we all go crazy. We take all the chumras, right? It's just the part of the way the day is observed.
The only thing about the wipes on, putting the baby in the water from the sink on Shabbos, it's cold water. You can't use hot water. So
Well, right.
you think that's better than using the wipe? I think
Maybe he has to.
baby's gonna be screaming bloody murder if you run cold water.
That's not great. In the time, I mean, I don't know if you'll even know this answer, but in the time of Mashiach, Bezrat Hashem, will there be a one answer? Like Hashem will say, actually, yes, that
For that 180.
that string.
Who's diapers?
And it's hard for me to understand that somebody says this is the halakha,
In general-
but not for you.
In general, since the time of Shammai and Hillel, or the Zugot, even beforehand, is a question. How do we have two truths?
Yeah.
That's a tough thing, right? So the postmodernists all believe in this, since everyone's truth is true, but
Yeah.
we generally don't take that approach, but like certainly not science, but when halacha, our approach has been that both are revealing different realities about something. So take it from the brisker derech, like we're both looking at this milk container, and you're saying, what do I see? And I'm saying, I'm looking at words. You're saying you're looking at cardboard.
Okay.
Are you right or am I right?
Okay.
So we say the same approach with halacha. Halacha is informed by perspective. And both could be elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim, even though if it looks like the result is different, but they're both saying the truth. So that's why they're both correct.
So we're all just taking pieces of a bigger whole.
Yeah, and
Okay.
ultimately, suffix that developed was a bad thing, but it brought out the proliferation of Torah.
So
The Yavanim and the Greeks darkened our eyes in Torah. They dimmed our eyes, but we benefited in the end with the proliferation of Torah. We'll finish this piece, the shtickle. So Diktuk Yisura Macherem Yisura Shabbos Sach Avrech Mitoshe Akila. Part of the Rabbeinu Ba'achas is Damno Yod Yana Yarot the Shiratim. I guess not toilet paper. Yod Shabbos and Chubar Minam. Toilet paper was connected. The Ofen Asher Alul Lavot Bayal. Every time you pull it, it reps. Kafat Sarav in Shocha Nachash Mizdazeh Kulo. Rats Ad Mehera Livdok et Hanosea Ashuro. He ran to the bathroom right away. This is a great story. And the Rav charged into the bathroom. Yeah. Extra coffee that day. Kivitza shel zu shel Rav. Asta alai roshem bal yimachel chochai. The fact that he ran in to investigate the matter made an impression, lasting impression. Misiyem oto avrech. Kach nesap nebeso. He also ripped all the paper. Alosa Shabbos. Bo echad mishteinav. So one of the neighbors who I guess.
severe abdominal pain.
Yeah. Ke'evei betin, pain of the stomach. Chamurim paktu oso. Ad shemamash itpatel mitateo v'lo yachol hayal. So he couldn't move. Matzav nira v'sukan. Mibchina alachti barur shemuter hayal kasher al tachana magen David Edom. Call the ambulance. Rav Asher Shmirat Shabbos Baro Batmosav. It burnt in his bones. Begins with some same Chilul Shabbos Ichol Shenitin. He wanted to avoid Is whose stomach was bothering him? The
The
Rav?
neighbor.
Oh, they were. Want to avoid all costs. Al af shelo hayam adavar l'chodo l'chavod ravno. So, natalet ofanav shel echad mibanav v'nasa bichvodo v'atmol izbaik as azara refuot hadrushahi. I guess he jumped on a bike.
Mhm.
It was less of a problem. Kimachar v'tachana atzala krova. I said it was so close. Lo hayam ma'aseh de la shot. At Hazara, he didn't feel that it would delay the refuat. So to minimize malacha, that's why he did a midach. It's like rabbinic prohibition. But calling Hatzala would have been more isur. They should say in Derech Tazor, mitachan Hatzala, hitztar harav lemechonito shel harofe. So I guess the way back, he saw the car.
He rode to the car.
On his way back of the doctor.
Mhm.
Oh, Junishal Kach, Anaki Jashe, she ish pazo shelachol beit cholim, people bo lakui.
Make sure it doesn't send him to an inferior hospital.
So, in other words, he rode there on the bike, but he drove back with the doctor.
Right, in the car.
Because there, he said that was at that point that was essential. So the detail, deciding between when to use the bike, when to use the car, very interesting. If someone was keeled over and it was clearly at that moment he would have gotten the ambulance immediately, right?
Mhm.
So you felt that was something this is something in your estimation. If you wait a few hours, you always make that connection. Something happens, you wait a few hours. Is it immediate? Do I call right away? Time one of my kids cut open their hand, but the bleeding wasn't stopping, or no, their nose was bleeding. It wasn't stopping. So normally you get a nosebleed, you don't call the ambulance. But if it doesn't stop after 5 minutes, you call the ambulance. What?
10 minutes.
10 minutes?
With the head down.
Right, but it didn't stay still didn't stop. They had a cauterizer this time. It was a really severe one. So they said it was good that we call. But
Oh, that's all.
Hmm?
yeah, we did. Yeah.
I thought that was the whole point of,
But I would.
to save a life.
Right. Right.
So
So again, I don't know the situation. I don't know the situation here, but it sounds like, in his estimation, that riding on the bike wouldn't have taken away at all from an iota from the care. But on the other hand, his the way on the way back, it was clear that he had to.
Why did he have to drive there?
It says he wanted to
be
To-
with that for shoulder?
he wanted him rode with the doctor in his car lest the doctor send the sick neighbor to an inferior hospital.
Oh, so I don't get it. So where did he go? Where was he going?
No, he rode a bike to the Beit Holim,
Right.
and then he said,
Sent an
my
ambulance.
neighbor needs help.
Sent an ambulance.
And then I guess he went with the patient in
the doctor.